Hyperledger, Quorum, and Corda, they call it the big three of enterprise blockchain, and now China's blockchain service network has got them all, and more are coming. What does R3 bring to China? How will Chinese banks embrace Corda? And how are stars of CBDCs lining up on the blockchain? Welcome to Word on the Block, the series that takes a deeper dive into blockchain and the emerging technologies that shape our world at the intersection of business, politics, and economy. It's what we cover right here on Forkast.News. I'm Forkast Editor-in-Chief Angie Lau. Well, China's blockchain-based service network, or BSN, embodies China's vision to push blockchain as a national priority. Now, the network has already onboarded global blockchain projects to ease blockchain applications for local developers. And certainly there's a push for an international presence as well. And oh, have they been busy, on a mission to catch them all and now adding R3's Corda to their blockchain decks. Yifan He, the CEO of Red Date Technology, the company behind the BSN project, says this addition will enable Corda adoption amongst all Chinese banks. So it sounds like it's time for a deep dive. Joining me today is Yifan He, and from R3, co-founder and chief product officer Todd McDonald. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. It's great to have you both on.
Great to be here.
Great to be here.
Yifan, I want to start with you. It's great to have you both. I want to start with you, Yifan. What is Blockchain Services Network? How did it start? What was the genesis moment?
Okay, so it's a long story. Okay, first we believe the blockchain industry right now is like 1993 of internet. So everybody building their own chain, and it's like the internet. So why internet becomes so powerful? Because we connect all the internet. So all the data flows. Then you can use the data from different country, different industry, different business. Then you can build a new business model. Okay, that's how you build e-commerce. You have data from banking, merchandise, logistics, payments. Then you put together become e-commerce. So that's why we will link all the chains, no matter it's private chain, public chain, they should be call each other as simple as calling HTTP protocol between websites. So that's we think there will definitely be something like that in the future. And the second one is because it's very early, so the cost is very high. Okay, also just like the internet, when you build a website in year 2000, it costs you $500,000. Nobody want to build a website. Okay, and there's no innovation. So, but when the cost drop to almost zero, okay, any high school students can build a website. Then, that's where the innovation begins. Everybody tries, and there's Yahoo, there's Google, there's a bunch of new business model and the new big corporations. And I think those two factors will really drive the blockchain technology forward. So that's why actually the two reasons we want to build BSN. The first one is the interoperability, and the second one actually is the cost, because we integrating all the cloud resources, integrating all the protocols and the frameworks, and also open up APIs for any website can access to BSN infrastructure. That actually drives the cost down. So right now in China, if you build a very small fabric chain, 3-peer, it costs you just like 200 RMB per month. Okay, basically it's like $300 per year. So compared to some major cloud services, if you build a chain similar 3-peer fabric there, it costs you $20,000 per year. So it's like 1% of that cost. So that's a mission of BSN, interoperability and cost, driving cost down.
I mean, it really sounds like a wide initiative to create that layer that allows for interoperability, which actually is the greatest strength. China's version of Web 3.0 almost.
Yes, that's our vision.
And Todd, when BSN started emerging a little bit over a year ago, and started onboarding a lot of different protocols, what were your thoughts then as you observed it? Why are you joining BSN?
So, Angie, if you think about the beginnings of R3, when we started the company, we, in a lot of ways, started the company backwards, thinking about the networks that were needed for this technology, this infrastructure to be successful. That's why we started the way we did with a large group of global banks to help initially bring R3 to life and then also build an underlying technology, Corda, that would help power enterprise blockchain and really net new financial markets for today and to the future. And so if you look at what BSN's trying to do, and it's really trying to instantiate and start a new network, but in a way that is specific for the Chinese market. So it's very exciting for us at R3 to, number one, be part of a very credible and growing network. And number two, that it is focused on the enterprise space to begin with. That's incredibly important for us. And number three, we understand that in order to bring what we do into the Chinese market, we need the right partners. So that's working with Red Date, working with in the other partners in BSN, China Union Pay, and others. That's what's really going to make it successful. Is those as partnerships and making sure that the network itself is as widespread as possible, but also done in a way that is enterprise ready and enterprise ready for the Chinese market specifically. So that's on the technology side. It's on making sure it's on the cost effective side and getting that penetration so we can start laying this new, as Yifan said, this new infrastructure for commerce.
And obviously, R3 permissioned blockchain here with the Corda-based open permission chain that you plan on launching in China on BSN China domestically. How will you be working with banks, and what other opportunities arise when you're on the BSN China network as a permissioned chain if other permission list chains are also operating? What is that interoperability opportunity there for you as well?
Yeah, so I think it's important, from the beginning, Corda has been open source. So it has been an open protocol from day one. And we're very passionate about that. And I think if you look across the other blockchain platforms, that really is it's a must have, right, for platforms to be even considered and potentially be successful. So we're very keen in how we're rolling out Corda within the BSN as initially, leveraging our open source protocol. And I think that's really, really important as a starting point. But we also know that since this is targeted for business enterprise users, that they're going to need certain capabilities that we as R3 have specifically built for enterprises and very, very discerning, very, very demanding enterprise customers. So that's why we can, in a second phase, be able to roll out this enterprise grade platform. But I think you think about, Angie, the interoperability concepts. When we started the company in 2014, 2015, we were asked repeatedly about interoperability with other blockchain platforms. But quite frankly, nothing was live yet. There were no real use cases
Yeah.
being done in anger on any of these networks. So it was a bit early in the game for that. But if you think, in 2021, where
Yeah.
we're looking at what's happening and we're moving not only workloads, but creating commerce and digital assets on these new networks, we understand that you can't be building, these digital islands of commerce. They need to be integrated to existing systems and integrated to potentially other networks. So I think interoperability is a really critical component as we enter into this next phase of the enterprise space. And I think it's incredibly important, as Yifan said before, if we're trying to build infrastructure, sort of a TCP/IP layer, we want to make the blockchain layer as invisible as possible to the
Hmm.
Chinese corporate that's interacting with it. And
Yeah.
so that's why the broader network is important. That's why the integration is important, and that's why over time interoperability of blockchain protocols, but probably more important, business networks is critically important.
Yeah. I absolutely agree with that concept of interoperability and sharing, and quite often as we evolved as capital markets, competition is healthy, but in 2021, we're seeing the rise of co-opetition, where corporates are also collaborators to reach greater goals. In this way, interoperability really reflects that sentiment. Yifan, with blockchain service network and creating that universal layer, what are some of the dynamics beyond cost and beyond interoperability that really is part of the foundation of BSN? And what are some of the opportunities, the apps that you hope will be built? Some of the things that we could see come out of BSN as a result of that universal layer.
Okay. Actually, before I dive into that, first I want to just very quickly say how we really understand the blockchain technology. Okay, so we actually think it's actually a new way to transmit data. It's not really a new way to store data. Okay, so basically we change from the linear transmission on the internet become a broadcasting way. Okay, to transmit data. So it's much efficient and much it can involve very complicated business process and business relationships. So I think that's actually the key. How you store data, you store that in a traditional database or in a ledger or in a block. It doesn't really matter. Okay, so first we don't like the name blockchain. Okay, personally I don't think it reflects the true technology. Okay, so that's why actually I won't say it's first in China you cannot use public chain because it's a little bit against the internet regulation because it cannot the data is not delayed. There's no KYC, so you cannot really deploy your application on public chain legally. Okay, so in China everything is based on the permission chain. And also even with public chain outside China, you can see right now most I don't want to say 99%, but the most application on public chain build around cryptocurrencies. Okay, the DeFi, the NFT, everything is built around cryptocurrency. The problem with that is the problem actually is the economic model. Okay, because you pay in cryptocurrency as a cost for the gas, then which means when you run a application on public chain, the revenue must be in cryptocurrency. Then the cost is in cryptocurrency, the revenue is in cryptocurrency. That makes sense. So if you ask a bank to deploy a traditional application on public chain, okay, they serve the traditional business model, which means the revenue is in fiat money, and you pay in cryptocurrency. It doesn't make sense because you cannot control the cost. Next year, the cost could be more than your revenue. So which means if you deploy a real life application not related to cryptocurrency, you need to make sure that cost is cryptocurrency, revenue is cryptocurrency, or it's in fiat money and cost in fiat money and the revenue in fiat money. So for permission chain, what's the cost? The cost is basically the licensing and the cloud services. So that's actually for the big corporation. Eventually when they really begin to adopt the blockchain technology, personally I believe that will be mostly be permissioned blockchain technology because they only pay for the licensing and the cloud resources. That's what they do. That's the cost. They don't want to do speculation, investment, stuff like that. So that's why truly from perspective of BSN, we really want to focus on the permission version to serve the real life, problem solving, real life business models. That's actually true belief from us. So people always say, what's the future between permission or public chain? I think that they will coexist, but in different industry. Okay, everything built around currency, public chain. Everything built to solve real life problems and working for real life business models go to permission chain. But of course, you need the interoperability sometimes for some certain business model and scenarios. So that's actually our belief. This is our belief. So that's why actually, personally, all my public chain friends hate me. Okay, to say that I still think public chain is later. a little limited. Okay, it's a little bit limited. It's personal. I think it's like a big game. It's like I don't want to go there. Then I will receive calls after this all. So and
Yeah.
so that's why we really think you can build so many. Like I said, personally, I think this is a new way to transmit it, right? Which means if you
Yeah.
have a business process, it involves like 15 different companies and IT systems. Then in the traditional way on the internet, it actually the data pass from one to next two and to next one. Anyone can change data in the middle. Uh,
Yeah.
anybody can hold the data, not transfer to next one. But if you put those 15 IT systems on a permission chain, then everybody can receive data quickly. And also with like a Coda, some framework like Coda, they enable the private transaction, right? You can have a transaction between just two parties out of this 50. So it's very, very flexible how to control the data moves. Just imagine how many powerful things you can do with this kind of technology. That's actually, I always encourage people to think a little bit underlying, okay, not always on an application on cryptocurrency. Actually, cryptocurrency, I consider that as the most simple application built based on this technology. So it's like email to internet. When email is out, people always say, okay, this is amazing. Let's build everything around email. Then, I mean, today we don't have internet, we have email net. Okay. That means you don't just focus on application, go a little bit underlining. That's when you invite, HTTP protocol, HTML language, you begin to build the internet into its full streets. So I really, in all the, opportunities, I encourage people, go a little bit deeper, not always focus on a simple application.
I mean, what you've addressed is actually one of the biggest criticisms that enterprise has about blockchain at the moment, at least public chains, is the massive volatility of cryptocurrency. When we take a look at, if the concept of fuel, and the ultimate outcome of any stable business is determining fixed costs of its, fixed operating costs. When you have that volatility of the very thing that runs your business or runs a predominant part of your business, that actually is quite restrictive and
Yes.
it bleeds a lot of energy from the company. So what you're talking about is there is value to permissioned chains. You pay a licensing fee, it's a fixed cost. And because you see blockchain as really that transportation layer of information rather than, block by block, and how others see it in a permissionless scene. That's what I'm hearing. It sounds like BSN China is much more geared to the enterprise needs of Chinese corporates. But it also allows Chinese corporates to create an efficiency that potentially could be light years ahead of those companies that are not on blockchain or not on that BSN layer that allows for the speed of transfer of data. Is that right?
Yeah,
That's what
That's
I'm hearing.
yes,
yeah.
yeah.
And I think yeah. If you think about maybe to sort of bring it down to what businesses are trying to do with on enterprise blockchain networks, you can think about and Angie used your example around large corporates are coming to these networks to help improve their working capital, help to finance their business day to day. The volatility of having to pay for transactions in a cryptocurrency is actually sort of the opposite of what they're trying to achieve. But if you think around what BSN could be enabling, is it's starting to tie together networks where if you think about a company like R3 with Corda, we're really being pulled into the Chinese market where we have started to get really great traction within the trade finance space. So these are large companies, in a lot of cases, smaller mid-sized companies that are looking to receive financing, do invoice financing or to finance cross-border trade with letters of credit. And these networks were looking to interact with Chinese corporates, and Chinese corporates are looking to access these new pools of financing. And number one, they want to be able to interact cross-border internationally. But number two, they want to be able to have it fit into their existing day-to-day business, something that integrates to their ERP system, something that slots into their treasury and cash management processes. They want to be able to, in some ways, we're trying to make this as simple and boring as possible for these corporates to be able to plug in and get the cost savings and get the access to hopefully new ways to help finance and grow their businesses.
How much of an efficiency can be created here? I mean, a lot of enterprises, as you know, Todd, have been looking at blockchain to transform legacy systems, looking to migrate, and we've much of the industry has experienced some disappointment in while developing potentially blockchain based enterprise solutions. There hasn't been really that transformative moment where people see the cost efficiencies. Are we there yet?
So, what we have started to see over the last, I'd say 6 to 12 months, as we entered and coming out of, the COVID pandemic, which has accelerated a lot of these, transformation efforts to some degree. We're starting to see the beginnings of these networks take shape. But I think, Andrew, to your point, this is about the network effects. It's about who is on the network, how many counterparties are they be able to interact with. So we're starting to see these networks come online, and in a lot of cases, you're beginning to see the initial cost savings. And I think a cost save play is interesting to a point, but it really doesn't capture the imagination as much as net new products or net new markets or maybe net new revenue for these companies to be able to grab hold of. So I think part of what's been holding back the industry has been getting these networks sort of started, right? So you need to be able to bring the right key players into the network, and I think we have that. A lot of what we're working on, but also others in the industry, and then importantly, integrating it to. If I'm in a financing network, I want to be able to integrate to the payment system and payment networks that I'm using today. I want to be able to potentially leverage things like digital value or digital currency right next to the assets that I'm exchanging. And I think that's where we are in this inflection point with the enterprise space, where you think about not only what's happening today, but potentially in the coming years with central bank digital currency, bringing the transfer of value and the transfer of assets together on these net new networks. I think that's when you're going to start to see the scale up in adoption and in cost savings, but also in net new revenue for these participants.
Todd, I'm going to pick up on something that you said that tweaks something for me. It's almost, for China, this expansive geographical footprint of 1.4 billion people, and really transformed into modern history through trains, right? High-speed trains, and that transport system that allowed people to traverse the country into cities and the rest, and that's a critical part of any country's development. In this same way, it feels like Yifan, correct me if I'm wrong, BSN is those railroads for the blockchain train of data that will traverse the country in a matter of seconds, linking Chinese enterprises and really transforming at least the data evolution in China. Where do you think this can go?
Me? Yeah.
Yeah. Where do you think this can go, Yifan?
First, I think I still want to emphasize how powerful the blockchain technology is. Okay, this is I believe in 10 years, 80% of any IT system needed to adopt some kind of broadcasting transmission in some way. 80% of the IT system. Okay, because you don't really see today because we have very complicated business scenarios and anything we do, we involve different parties. So you don't see a standalone system just by itself. So as long as you have a business scenario, involve more than two parties, I think you need to adopt, blockchain technology. I just want to say in the future, okay, probably 30 years from now, okay, let's say we build very complicated data transmitting technology on each car. So when you drive the car, it basically in 100-meter range, you're actually communicating with all the cars in that range. Okay, but remember, you are broadcasting your data, and every car receive it, and they react. This reaction will receive by all the cars. So tell me how you achieve that, but just with internet transmission, one car to another car, or one car to all the car, but that car reaction cannot be received by other cars. So you eventually you need this kind of broadcasting way to transmit data, to receive data, to process data, and to reaction to other systems. So that's why I really, really believe, not only in China, in the world, in 10 years, 80% of IT systems will somehow use some kind of broadcasting way to transmit data, need blockchain technology. So that's why we, part of the BSN mission is to achieve that, help, low cost, in low cost way to help all the IT systems to achieve that. And also, in the meantime, we need all the developers, all the tech companies to understand this technology, deeper and deeper, because they are the people who will build the IT systems.
How will this transform, in your opinion, Yifan, the state of Chinese enterprises? How will this impact state-backed projects?
Actually, it impacted in all projects, not only state, but I think right now in the world, the Chinese government is really really want to push the blockchain technology forward. They actually invest a lot of money. Okay, last year and this year. So those money actually come to the market, actually really train a lot and make a lot of small companies like Ready. Of course, we never receive any money from the government, okay, but it really, really helps the industry, because there's many entrepreneurs in China begin to build, blockchain related stuffs because they can get some project, they can, raise money, they can hire people. So I think the effort from the Chinese government is really, really, it has huge impact in the world, in the blockchain industry in the world, because I think in next 3 years to 5 years there will be more and more permission blockchain technology come from China. Okay, there's probably a new interoperability protocol. There's new framework. There's a lot of things right now in China, and also that's why we really want to bring in the R3, the Corda framework into China. The reason is, personally, I really like Corda. Okay, I think it doesn't really follow this kind of, it's from the public chain, the blocks, everything. You see, some people actually tell me Corda is not blockchain because they use traditional database. I think, okay, if using traditional database to store data is much more efficient, then why not? It's better framework. Okay, it's a better framework than most other frameworks. So that's why I really, really want developers in China understand this technology. Okay, that's why we actually, working with R3, bring Corda into China. Also, the first step is we build we call the open permission network based on Corda technology, which means actually it's a free version of Corda, and free to use. Any developer, it's high school students or small medium companies, they can connect to BSN to access this free version Corda network and try this technology. I think it's very important. Right now, before today is like 3 months before launch, there's at least 5 banks is talking with us, said as long as it's launched, they want to try. Okay, they want to try how to their team will do some small development, so build some Corda app, so it's really right now. Almost every single bank in China, the technical team, the research center, they know Corda, but they never tried it. So now we are very easy to access, network based on Corda. So everybody, we really want the high school students, the college, they have class just teaching how to programming on Corda. That's our goal.
Wow. Wow. High schoolers in Beijing are learning how to code in Corda. Todd, that must warm your heart. But you've got a few months to go, and it sounds like there's a lot of excitement and anticipated pickup from major Chinese banks. Are you ready? And what are you going to be offering those banks? What are the kind of things that we'll be able to see applied once launched?
Well, it is incredibly exciting, and I think it's one of the benefits of being in the space to be able to, thinking back a few years back when we started the company to think that, as you said, a group of high school students in Beijing could be building on a platform that we help bring to markets. It's incredibly exciting, and it is really very important if you think of this is an infrastructure investment across the Chinese market for BSN, and it's important to have this be open and have as many hands on keyboards as possible. But thinking about what we're going to be rolling out, this is we want to be able to get developers comfortable in understanding what it means to be building applications on Corda or Corda apps. But it's also incredibly important that we're offering the enterprise grade capabilities around the ability for these networks to be long lasting and running and to have a consensus mechanism provided by China UnionPay, and also to be able to integrate to the payment systems on the back end. But as I mentioned before, a big part of us being able to help get deployment within China is for some of these networks that have been started outside of China to be able to start to interact with these Chinese corporates, whether they're insurance networks like our partners at B3I, which is a large reinsurance network in Europe, or Contour, which is a letter of credit network that is being backed by the likes of HSBC and Citibank. This is the potential, right, for these international networks to start to really establish a beachhead within the Chinese market, and for in the right way and at the right time to have that connectivity to these international markets and into these funding pools. And importantly, as Ethan was mentioned before, is this is about connecting businesses together, but it's connecting them together with trust that they can rely on from the network itself. Which, if you think about international and global trade, we've had some challenges previously around that trust factor, and so this doesn't give you 100%, but it really brings more trusted commerce and more trusted participants together in a global network, but done in a way where there's KYC and strong identity of the participants that you're interacting and trading with.
We could see very clearly potentially blockchain triggering the next wave of multinational expansion in China. Currently, BSN has more than 100 city nodes in China. It's targeting 150 by the end of the year. Its 100 public city nodes are spread over 80 major cities in mainland China. Todd, Yifan, what is next? What is the ultimate vision for BSN?
That's actually a very good question. Actually, first, that's actually a vision. Personally, I think the blockchain technology is so important. It eventually will rebuild the internet. Okay, because from our point of view, the right now the internet is really old system. Okay, for example, when I send an email, this email actually goes through a bunch of third-party servers. Why? When I'm visiting a website, I need to go through a bunch of ISP servers. Why? Because on internet it's a linear transmission. I need to go through one point to one point and eventually reach my. So I think this is actually it actually costs a lot resources just process that transmission. So eventually I think the future internet in my mind, basically, it's we will have our own data centers. Okay, when we have our computer, we have our phone, it connect to our data center first. Okay, then when we perform any business like visiting a website, it actually from my data center go to the website's data center, probably download an application back and run that application. You still see the web pages. Okay, you still see like today we see, but that application actually run inside your data center. and you get the results, push back. So that backend system of that website receive it and process. So we have our own data, we have our own privacy, and all the connection is point to point. Then, for example, next when I involve in a business transaction involve like 10 parties, then basically I join a chain. Okay, so we process the data, and the next one is when I join a business scenario require unlimited parties. It's like a public chain scenario. Then I just download the software, then I join the network and process my business. So everything done through my data center. So basically, it will change the way people visiting websites, send message, almost process everything. So I think that's the internet should be in 30 years, 20 years, or 50 years. So that's actually our way.
Todd,
BSN will be slowly.
That's a 20, 30 years could be quicker than that. Certainly, the speed in which blockchain services network is coming to market is really incredible. Todd, do you think there should be a Europe or US version? What China is building internally for its own enterprise efficiencies domestically. So could this also transform Europe and America? And should we see those versions there as well?
So I think, Angie, this is an infrastructure investment, and what one potential future for BSN is that it almost becomes invisible to technology and infrastructure within China. It's almost like the dial tone for business. Now, if you look at in Europe or in the US, there is, as usually is the case, the investment in underlying infrastructure comes about a little bit more slowly than it would within the Chinese market. So in Europe and the US, I think that they're looking at this in a little bit of a different way. The focus within Europe is more on what is the potential for something like a digital euro as more of a bigger project across the European Union. And I think that's where a lot of the focus and attention from the public sector is being focused right now. We're involved in projects with entities there. I think that's where most of that energy is being spent at the moment. I would love to say that in the U.S. there is an equal amount of common investment on the infrastructure side, but it's really being led obviously by the private sector, where here in the U.S. The investment is coming either from the large institutions that are either themselves trying to bring some of these things to market, like a JP Morgan, or others that are working with or through an R3 or others trying to build these new networks, or existing market infrastructure like in the financial markets. If you look at the work that here the DTCC is doing with trying to modernize their equity settlement system, leveraging a blockchain platform like Corda to be able to potentially reduce the challenges there might be within settlement, and solve sort of some of the GameStop challenges that they had a few months back. So I think that you're seeing different pockets of investment, not to the scale or the ambition of what BSN is doing, but hopeful that, and what we have been seeing is that the investment from China and from the public sector, even into things like DCEP, it's really pushing the agenda in the US and in Europe.
That's certainly what we're feeling here at Forkast.News. Being based in Asia, we know that the regulatory policy environment is so much more receptive to growing innovation. The liquidity is here, as we've often said. The projects are here. And those high school students in Beijing, well, they're learning it right now. They're learning Corda, they're learning blockchain. And we have learned so much from this conversation. Yifan He and Todd McDonald from R3, Yifan from Red Date Technology. I want to thank you both for joining us on Word on the Block.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thank you. Thank you.
And thank you, everyone, our audience, for joining us on this latest episode. I'm Angie Lau, Editor-in-Chief of Forkast.News. Until the next time.